I do believe that the decision of not continuing that decades-old power plant for the safety risk reasons, sustainability reasons, and also the nuclear waste processing issues are valid. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that Taiwan should completely disregard nuclear-based energy source. Aside from the environmental and also sustainability and security, safety aspect of the debate, I think a big part of the reason why the some of the political parties here and also major business tycoons here supported the idea of reactivating the nuclear power plant was because of the concern that as Taiwan continues to attract more high-end semiconductor chip manufacturing and try to increase its pivot toward the AI chip production, becoming a hub essentially. I think the energy supply, both the I think stability of that and also the I think sustainability of that has come into question. And so I think a big part of the pro restarting the nuclear power plant argument was that they are worried about Taiwan's reliance on imported energy sources for electricity, I think, generation. And at the same time, they believe that that increases Taiwan's vulnerability to relying on mostly on the imported energy sources. And so they think that by reactivating the nuclear power plant that was just recently decommissioned in May, it would enhance Taiwan's own, I think, energy sustainable, I think, resilience, and at the same time, like reduce Taiwan's reliance on others. So in other words, I think increase Taiwan's own energy autonomy as well. Reactivating the nuclear power plant might fit into the future scenario when there is a potential Chinese blockade around Taiwan, because I think that's another main source of the, I think, driver of the pro-nuclear option camps argument is that they believe that by phasing out nuclear power plants, it is making Taiwan a lot more vulnerable to energy embargoes that China could easily impose. And that would suddenly cut Taiwan off to more than 96% of the energy sources that it currently relies on after the last nuclear power plant was phased out. And so again, I think that goes back to their argument. And also, I think another side of that is the fact that the attempts to try to increase the percentage of green energy sources like wind and solar both are have the risks of weather patterns and are also, I think, potentially not as reliable as nuclear power plants. And I think the, pro-nuclear side's argument is also that citing other countries' examples, including the European Union and also in Japan, that both have decided to stick with nuclear or at least count nuclear as part of their transition to green energy and sustainability in the mid to longer term. And so they believe that, for Taiwan to completely phase out nuclear is a risky move under the current, I think, climate, both geopolitically, but also, I think, economically as well. Realistically speaking, if Taiwan is able to ensure its imported energy supply remains steady and that also ensure that it has the ability to try to deal with potential challenges that could disrupt these energy import schedules, then whether to restart the nuclear power plant or not will have little to do with Taiwan's current status or state of energy supply. But at the same time, I think there's always going to be the argument against relying too heavily on imported energy sources, again, because that would basically force the country to be in a vulnerable position, say if the supply gets disrupted by commercial reasons or there are disputes between Taiwan and the source of, the country that it usually imports those energy source, or really if one day China decided to disrupt the shipping of those energy source into Taiwan, then that would suddenly make Taiwan very vulnerable and exposed. The ruling party and the current government's legitimacy and also credibility as an advocate for an nuclear-free Taiwan hinges on the outcome of this referendum. But of course, I think there are other realistic steps that will be taken before an actual restart of the nuclear power plant, because there will be careful inspections and studies by experts and groups that are specialized in conducting these kind of inspections. And I believe that that's also going to take several months to maybe more than a year. And during that process, obviously, there will also be political tug of war continuing on this particular topic. So it's not a very easy process to just say if the referendum's outcome favors restarting the nuclear power plant, then that would then immediately lead to the restart of that power plant, which also is more than 4 decades old already. So the Taiwan referendum law forbids the same question to be raised again as a referendum within 2 years. So if, say, the Saturday's outcome rejects restarting nuclear power plants, then the opposition political parties that favor this move will not be able to use referendum as a route to try to restart that. And there are potentially the path to amend existing laws. So that would lead to the possibility of restarting nuclear power plant, but that is a way more complicated and low prospect route than a referendum. So I think this is their bid to try to reverse or challenge the government's decision back in May. And so I think, of course, I think Saturday's outcome will probably determine, at least in the near future, whether this whole debate would still continue in Taiwan or not. But I think on the other hand, there are ongoing foreign lobbying and I think inputs coming mostly from the United States about the need, or at least the benefit, for Taiwan to consider other types of energy sources that are nuclear based. There are some American companies like GE that has been offering nuclear related energy solutions to other countries, and they are pretty active in terms of its presence here in Taiwan, and also their relationship with the political sector as well. So I think that would continue to be part of the discussion, but maybe not hinging directly on restarting an already phased out nuclear power plant. I do believe that the decision of not continuing that decades old power plant for the safety risk reasons and the sustainability reasons, and also the nuclear waste processing issues are valid. So, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that Taiwan should completely disregard nuclear-based energy source, exactly because of the risk of relying too heavily on imported liquid natural gas that will be subject to global shipping disruptions and also other geopolitical factors that will suddenly put Taiwan in a very vulnerable position. Both, I think, economically, but also, I think, just, for maintaining the everyday life for the citizens as well. So in order for Taiwan to become more resilient, I think it is necessary to also consider others much safer and more, I think, advanced and developed new power, I think, electricity, power, energy options that might involve some type of safer nuclear source. But when it comes back to the particular issue of whether restarting a decommissioned nuclear power plant is the solution or not, I hold some doubt against the argument that restarting that should be the primary solution that Taiwan needs to consider. There are, more developed, safer, and tested solutions that does involve nuclear that companies that have been operating in Taiwan for decades have already proven that they are a reliable supplier of that because of their prior experiences in other countries. And so I think the debate, about whether Taiwan's energy future should completely, be without nuclear or not, it should probably continue to go on. But the particular debate surrounding the decommissioned nuclear power plant should have a pretty clear answer, which is based on careful inspection and studies that has been done by several governments over the last few decades. It's not just has been done by the current government that decided to phase it out. This was a very long process and very careful, lengthy, inspection, that has been conducted, yeah, and that has taken place. And the decision wasn't made lightly.